Diddy is now facing trafficking and racketeering charges that could put him behind bars for life. Over 5 days, jurors heard shocking testimony from ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura. From substance-fueled freak-offs to explosive violence. Former Danity Kane member Dawn Richard even testified under oath, and what she witnessed in 2009 left the courtroom stunned. Today, we're breaking down every witness, every accusation, and every bombshell from the first week of Diddy's federal criminal trial. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lindsay Unfiltered. And today we're looking into the first 5 days of Diddy's criminal federal trial. There was a lot of information, a lot of witnesses, so I'm going to try to cover it as accurately as possible and give you guys a good overview of what happened in the first 5 days of this trial. If you like content like this that revolves around scandal, true crime, conspiracy with a twist of humor, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If this series does well, we can recap every week of Diddy's trial up until the verdict comes in. Without further ado, let's talk about this trial. On day one, the prosecution does their opening statement, basically setting the stage for why Diddy should be charged. Now, Diddy has been charged with racketeering conspiracy, otherwise known as RICO, 2 counts of trafficking, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in women and men selling their bodies. So a lot of people don't really understand what Diddy's being charged for. I think we should start there, and that's where the prosecutor started. If we look at racketeering conspiracy, or RICO, that's known as an agreement between 2 or more people to participate in a criminal enterprise that engages in a pattern of illegal activities, racketeering for profit. Okay, this means that rather than engaging in the actual racketeering acts themselves, the individuals are charged with conspiring to commit those acts. And then you guys ask, what is trafficking, right? When we look at trafficking, the definition for that one would be the action or practice of illegally transporting people from one country or area to another for the purpose of exploitation. This is what Diddy's being charged with. And this is the burden of proof that the prosecution has to meet in order for a verdict to be met in Diddy's case. Like I said, guys, on day one, they lay out this framework and Diddy pleads not guilty. And Cassandra Ventura, Cassie, is confirmed as a star witness. We knew this all along, but in this moment, it is confirmed. We have Assistant U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson saying that there was another side to P. Diddy. He was a cultural icon that ran a criminal enterprise with an inner circle of people that helped him commit crimes and cover them up. The prosecutor also talks about the freak-offs, the abuse, how the freak-offs were filmed. These acts between Diddy and Cassie were filmed as blackmail to keep her from speaking out. So you have some type of coercion element involved in this. She talks about how Diddy hired people or had people that were employees that would help him exploit and cover these crimes up. Hence where you get the racketeering from. The main thing that the prosecution alleges in this case is that Diddy forced Cassie to be intimate with male workers against her will and recorded it to keep her mouth shut. That is their main argument. Cassie is their main witness. There is another witness that'll come later, but that is what their case rests on. Their case rests on the fact that Cassie was used and abused for 11 years at the will of this man, and people in his enterprises help cover it up. Strong argument, but a huge burden of proof to fill, in my opinion, okay? And when you talk about the defense attorneys, the really rich Brian Steele's and the really educated lawyers that get up there and they say things like, domestic violence is not trafficking. So they're trying to draw the line. They're trying to muddy up the jury's mind about what trafficking is and what domestic violence is. They want doubt to be created. I feel like they do a good job of that. They speak on Cassie being with him for 11 years, leaving on her own terms, participating in these freak offs on her own terms. But were they really on her own terms? That is for the jury to decide. In my opinion, the burden of proof is big for the prosecution to fill. You have to prove to us that she didn't want to be in those rooms. If you can prove that, then he is guilty. But there is a lot of doubt and a lot of muddiness. They bring their first witness to the stand. The prosecution does. Israel Flores. And he was that intercontinental security officer that we saw in that tape with Cassie and Diddy. He testifies that Diddy offered him a large wad of cash. I don't know why they describe it like that always. When rich people throw money at people, why is it a wad? Why is it always a wad? I don't know. Things to think about. But Diddy offered him a large wad of cash to keep his mouth shut. Most immoral people would have said, hand it the fuck over. You know what I'm saying? But because he has some morality, he didn't take the bribe from Diddy. He escorted them back to their hotel room. He said that Cassie later left with a black eye. He didn't call the police. He made an incident report because they tore the hotel room up. And the defense gets up and says, why wouldn't you call the police? And he says, there was no victim there. Nobody was going to press charges. She didn't want to press charges. What? You saw somebody get battered in your hotel? You're not going to call the police? No, I know what it is. Rich people get protection. You have rich people privilege. You have pretty privilege. You have rich privilege. You have white privilege. But rich privilege trumps them all. These really affluent people are in our hotel. We can look the other way until we're subpoenaed to come to court. That's what that was about. That's what that was about, in my opinion. The second witness was one of these many male gigolos. We're going to call them gigolos. Okay? Comes to the stand and he says in 2012, he was paid to be intimate with Cassie. While P. Diddy sat in the corner and fondled himself. He saw Diddy being abusive to Cassie, dragging her by her hair. He said Diddy acted like a director, directing them what to do, involving baby oil. Now we know why so much baby oil was involved. Diddy is a deviant. A deviant. I think everyone's on the page when we say Diddy wanted to see his girlfriend with other men. We're all on the same page with that, but this is where the area is gray. Did he want to see his girlfriend with other men for pleasure purposes? Or did he want to see his girlfriend with other men for control purposes? Did he want to use her body the way that a trafficker does? That's for the jury to decide. When this male dancer was pressed by the defense, he said he didn't call the police because he didn't want to lose his life. Diddy has a lot of money, a lot of influence. So yeah, no. So no one could stand up for her. No one could stand up for her. In 11 years could stand up for this woman. Now we're into day 2. On day 2 of the testimony, we see Cassie for the first time in court. She's 8 months pregnant, and she talks about the 11 years of abuse that she went through with P. Diddy. The things that she is saying are absolutely reprehensible. The things that she is recounting doing with P. Diddy is absolutely reprehensible. I don't even know if I could repeat it here. She said that he abused her frequently, very frequently. She said that these encounters made her feel worthless. She said it was weekly. Can you guys imagine that? Weekly with different men for years. And that is where the trafficking makes sense, because you're literally using her as your vessel. She's no longer your girlfriend. She's no longer someone you admire. She's a fucking vessel for you to be a deviant and control and coerce. On day 2, she said that Diddy literally had people, bodyguards, assistants, whom the fuck ever, to surveil her and make sure she didn't go here or make sure she didn't go there. They protected him and they watched her. They protected him and they watched her. She was his property. Just as if like a ring will slip off your finger. Make sure I don't lose my ring. Make sure I don't lose my woman. Captive. And that's where the trafficking comes in. There wasn't a ton of women, and he wasn't this big kingpin pimp on top of a pyramid. They're talking about Cassie, and I can see that. It depends on which juror you ask, though. I don't know what's going through their heads right now. They're bombarded with a lot of information, but this is sick. And one of the more sick or twisted or disturbing things that I found from this trial, after Cassie would sleep with these men, her and Diddy would escape to another room where she would put the dancer's excrement all over Diddy's body. I don't know what that was supposed to do, but honestly, what? And you mean to tell me at no point Diddy felt like she was uncomfortable with this? At no point Diddy knew she didn't want to do this? And she said she feared saying no because he might beat me up. And that's very possible because we've seen him beat you up. We've seen him drag you back when you tried to leave. So she has a long testimony on day 2. On day 3, she continues her testimony. She has story after story about how Diddy SA'd her. Diddy made her use her body for these male workers. How Diddy would abuse her in front of other people. She said one time they were in a party and Diddy beat her up so bad. And then she tried to escape and his security started chasing her. Why aren't y'all letting her go? You should have morals when it comes to the life of another person. She knew P. Diddy had access to tons of weapons, big weapons, huge weapons, weapons here and there. And we can know that's true because when they raided his home, there were all kinds of Dracos and shit in his house. Money equals power, equals influence, equals silence. So I understand her and I believe her. It shouldn't have taken you guys a tape to believe her. There's too many people saying the same identical thing, the same script. She went on to testify that Diddy was violent to others. She's seen Diddy punch people. She's seen Diddy hang someone over the balcony. Cassie said she saw Diddy be violent to people. His employees, friends, her. So it wasn't just, oh, I'm going to beat up my girlfriend and act like an angel to everyone else. When he was on that shit, he would pop anybody. Just a hothead. Needs help. And for you to go on the stage during the BET Awards and thank her for holding you down during the dark times? Well, the dark time is now. It's now. For you. She said that Diddy, you know the things you open wine with? She said that Diddy lunged at her with that. I guess to poke her. She said that Diddy said that Kid Cudi's car would blow up, and it did. We all know about that incident. Cassie said that she became completely dependent on opiates because of P. Diddy. P. Diddy started her. She was 19 years old when she got in the industry. And P. Diddy started her on opiates. She was addicted to opiates. She was this close to taking her own life because of P. Diddy and what he did to her. She testified that she got $20 million in the civil suit. That's a slap in the face. For all she had to endure mentally, emotionally, and physically, 20 million. I hope she can put this behind her. I pray she can put this behind her because that's a lifelong wound. That's a lifelong wound, and $20 million can't heal that, and he didn't want to even give her that. Shameless. The opiate addiction may have been used to cope with the abuse. The opiate addiction may have been used for a ton of reasons. Could she have said no? Could Cassie have said no to the opiates that Sean was forcing into her? Could she? I don't know. It's difficult for me to blame someone else for someone's addiction. You put it in your mouth, or did he shove it down your mouth? That's a different story. So on day 4, the cross-examination starts, and it is a hairy one. Defense attorneys want to know how the relationship started. They want to know, did you love him? Of course I loved him. They introduced into evidence some text messages from 2009, the earlier freak-offs. She was saying things like, I love our freak-offs. But she testified that those were just words at that point. Those were just things to keep him satisfied. She'd tell him things about the freak offs. He'd ask her about them frequently, and she would say, it made me feel dirty, or she would say, I enjoyed it. So she had mixed feelings about the freak offs, but she's saying the ones that she said she enjoyed, she never really did enjoy. Those are just words to keep him off of her back. The defense also cross-examines her about Gina, also cross-examines her about Kim Porter. She says that, I was jealous of them. They were involved with the same person that I was involved in. So yes, I was jealous of them. Kind of trying to create a motive in the jury's mind, doubt, jealousy. They also touched on the drug use that P. Diddy and Cassie both were involved in. Maybe trying to make her not seem as relevant or credible as a witness. How could she be credible if she was under all these substances at the time? How could she know what was truly going on? She testified that Diddy was angry when he found out that she was doing any substances without him. So they touched on those major things. They pulled out the text messages showing Cassie saying that she enjoyed these things. They painted her as a jealous girlfriend that was jealous of his exes, that could have a reason to want to damage or tarnish his image. They painted her as an addict. That's just what they did to try to dampen her testimony. Her testimony still stands, but in the jury's mind, they're thinking, did Cassie want to do this or not? And that's what the defense stands to do, kind of make you question, was this trafficking? Or was this just an abusive, terrible, heinous relationship? So if we go up to day 5, we have 2 more witnesses introduced. The first one is Yasin Basinda. She's a Homeland Security special agent. She cased the room after they arrested Diddy that night in that suite. Diddy knew he was in this area to be investigated by the police, arrested potentially. Yet, this woman testified that they still found Astroglide, baby oil, all of this bullshit in the room. Along with that, they found benzodiazepine, anxiety medication that can have a calming effect, with the name Frank Black on the label, 2 bags of pink powder that tested positive for MDMA, or 2C. That's what I'm assuming it is. And it also appeared that a woman had been staying with him there. So let me get this straight. You know that you're going to be investigated by the police, the slammer. You know that something's coming your way soon. Yet, the baby oil and the Astroglide, you can have that. That's not a crime, right? But for you, it's suspicious. I wouldn't have that around me. And then you have prescription medication that don't belong to you, and you have illicit drugs. That lets me know that Diddy is a full-blown addict. A full-blown addict. Because they're snooping, they're watching you, yet you got me lifted, shifted, high. Like, what is going on? Okay? And then after that Homeland Security agent comes up, we hear from Dawn Richard. Danity Kane. Danity Kane was that girl group. If you don't know, now you know. Look them up, okay? Okay, so Richard testified. She got on the stand. She said, I've seen P. Diddy hit Cassie with a skillet, drag her by her hair, and then I heard all kinds of glass breaking and stuff. A skillet? He could have unalived her. It is a blessing that Cassie is here today. It is a blessing that she's here today. They both could be no longer. From what I'm hearing, the things that they have done in their lives, the substances they've put into their bodies, they both could be no longer. But I'll say this, and don't attack me. Substances had a huge role to play in this case. Period, point blank. That's how I feel about it. If substances weren't involved, the addiction to substances, we wouldn't see this crazy ass testimony. Hit her with a skillet. She said she didn't report the abuse either because she was afraid what Diddy would do. Diddy invited her into the house saying, this is just passion. It's what lovers do. Me and Cassie are deeply in love. To the outside world, no. It's lucky You and Cassie are alive. And that was the first 5 days of testimony. What I know from everyone who's testified, the dancer, Dawn, they were scared. They didn't want to say anything. The hotel officer. So Diddy evoked this fear in people. Why was that? Was it just because of his money, or was it something else? Now, the second week of this trial will go underway. As far as I'm concerned, we have a long way to go in this case, because as far as I'm concerned, the burden of proof has not been met. I do not believe, without a reasonable doubt, that there was racketeering conspiracy going on. The others I'm still pondering on. There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of gray area already. And if you can't start strong, I don't know. I just don't know how it's going to turn out. If you guys let me know how you think it's going to turn out in the comments. I had fun breaking this down for you guys. It took a lot of investigation. It took a lot of pulling notes up from different news sources. I've been on TikTok listening to the world. Everyone has an opinion about this. So make sure to share the video out so we can continue to build a conversation. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If we get to the point where this video is watched a lot, shared a lot, thumbs up a lot, we can go live and we can talk on this and we can kind of figure it out together. If you were a juror in this moment, would you be on the side of guilty or not guilty? Let me know in the comments down below. This has been Lindsay Unfiltered. Bye now.